Goddamn Canadians.
You see a weaker man boy. And you just,
I'm the alpha male.
You just need to snuff it out.
It's good for the gene pool.
Oh man.
I mean, come on.
Jay-Z Eugenics.
Is that guy gonna grow up already or what? He looks like a baby still.
Is he
not my nerd waiver?
Is he a eugenist or is he a newgenist like Frank Thomas?
Yeah.
Neither
What's
one.
What's that product?
I think it's Nugenics.
Oh, Nugenics.
Nugenics, yeah. Not a sponsor. All right. I think with that, all the eugenics talk.
Wait, is all that in there? Okay.
It is, yeah. We should get into
great.
Let's get into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the NRDWave podcast. I'm Kevin Down. Once again, we got Jay Silverheels and Bobby Down. Say what's up, guys.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
All right, perfect. I couldn't have asked for better.
Gonna do it every time.
All right, so this week we're gonna be talking about our top 5 favorite comedies of the early 2000s. So from year 2000 to 2009. A couple weeks ago we did the last decade, so 2010 to 2019. A little bit of a continuation of that, and in my opinion, the talent pool here is much deeper. These movies, as far as I'm concerned, most of them, even my honorable mentions, are instant classics. So, yeah, this should be fun. Hopefully we don't go over time because there's going to be a lot to talk about here.
There's a lot to talk about here. If we go over time, I mean, I feel like it's going to happen no matter what, unless we just really try not to. There's just...
Well, it's a good thing you're drawing this out.
Oh, exactly. I do what I can for this podcast.
Our one listener might get bored. So, for his sake, why don't we jump right into it? Who wants to start with number 5?
I'll go number 5. I'm raising my hand, by the way.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes,
number
Jay.
5 for me is probably what society is about to become: Idiocracy. One of the greatest. I don't know if it's a satire on the future, even though it hasn't happened yet, but it's hilarious. Everyone in the future is completely stupid because only stupid people were breeding. So the smart people had like 1 kid. Stupid people, they have like 5.
I think it's a cautionary tale.
Is it cautionary? Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, the future's going to be hilarious for us smart people.
I think it's going to be hilarious for dumb people because smart people are going to be freaked out.
Yeah, they're going to be... Smart people are just going to be horrified.
Yeah.
Look at the average, like the most average person on the planet. Just look at how he dealt with those people. It was terrible.
And Jay, why do you think you and I are so depressed all the time?
Probably because we're smart.
Exactly. Sorry,
Man, you're just gonna do that to me, huh?
I like money.
Don't do me like that.
It's just hilarious how, like, I mean, even the person, like, if you speak correctly, he's like, "What's the matter with you? Are you gay or something like that?" Stop me.
Yeah, like you're.
The derogatory term, like you're weird. What's the matter?
Exactly.
It's definitely not PC. It's definitely not a PC movie.
Like, yeah,
but just seeing how these people are using the words, they're obviously not intended to be taken seriously.
Well, it's
so
funny.
I think it really works.
I'm not necessarily a advocate for political correctness, but this movie This movie is sort of saying, like, dumb people aren't politically correct. So it is kind of, which is funny because Mike Judge is generally a conservative type of storyteller. Yeah. So it's funny that he kind of threw that in there. Unless I'm completely misinterpreting it, then I'll go fuck myself. But
I think you're correct. I think Mike Judge is like good at poking fun at both sides. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, he dishes out fairly. He throws out the guff pretty fairly.
Absolutely,
lots of guff.
This is a movie that I forgot about and I didn't put it on my list, but yeah, it's a great movie and it's such a good time to watch. It's so ridiculous, and the whole president, the way that he's a celebrity, is very
macho.
It's like very topical nowadays, so that's kind of funny that he almost predicted it. But at the end of the day, it was bound to happen because celebrity is so powerful in this.
What else is great too is like all the major corporations run everything. It's pretty much like it's Carl's Jr. pretty much owns everything.
Starbucks.
But Starbucks isn't coffee anymore. It's turned into a brothel.
Yeah, it's a natural progression, which is
and then knock off Gatorade.
Fuddruckers turns into buttfuckers.
Well, that's what's great about the movie is it's basically hyper realism. It's a caricature of real life, especially today. So that's kind of
it's all the baser instincts just take over for everybody. That's just what they deal to, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Bobby, what's your number 5?
This one, I don't know. I doubt you guys have this one near your top 5 because there's so many, incredible movies here, but this is one of my all-time favorites. Like when I watch this with Corey, this is like one of our few favorite movies of all time. I picked Not Another Teen Movie. In my opinion, this is the best spoof movie of all time. It's spoofing, of course, all the teen movies. It's like The Breakfast Club. It's like Varsity Blues, 16 Candles. There's like 10 movies, like 10 teen movies that they take from for this. Never Been Kissed, She's All That. Just a lot of really good classic teen movies, and just turns the tropes on their head, and just like Chris Evans is the main character, Jake Weiler, and he's just this douchey quarterback, and he just pulls it off so amazingly well. Like he's really like the only big name in this movie, like the only like true star.
Randy
of this
Quaid,
movie.
come on.
It's true. I forgot Randy Quaid plays the crazy father of the girl main character.
And Jenna Presley.
Yeah.
Jamie Presley. I actually have her on my notes here. She is the third biggest star of this movie. So what does that tell you?
Well,
Was Shannon Elizabeth in this one?
No, she was playing a spoof of Shannon Elizabeth's character.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Also, what's her name from not Never Been Kissed. The other one where
Mia Kirshner, I think, is in it.
Oh yeah, but she wasn't really. She was more like C-list celebrity.
The one I'm thinking of is on Supergirl now. She plays Supergirl's sister. She's the main girl, the one who gets the best.
Oh yeah.
So can't remember the actress's name.
I have no idea of her name. That's the funny thing. But like everybody together works so well. Like I love like the three younger, like the younger brother and his friends. It's like the American Pie gang, and like the main like the younger brother, he just wants to get laid. Like that's his whole thing. He's like, we just got to high school, we got to get laid.
They're like all the gangs in one though, because they're also the Breakfast Club gang. The American Pie gang. I think they're like 16 Candles gang.
It's like they pull from like all those movies, and they do like almost everything they do hits so well. It's like I think there's very few jokes that don't hit. Like there's like a diarrhea joke that wasn't my favorite, but otherwise like every scene is a hit. There's maybe like one scene that's a miss. I think my favorite scene is the one where it's like Varsity Blues, like he's trying to get his mojo back as the quarterback. It's the championship game, and there's one final play. He just chucks it downfield after getting like a pep talk from the wise black janitor, and the ball just sails.
Which is
and
Mr.
I think
T, by the way.
Yeah, it's Mr. T. And I think if I remember right, the ball sails and hits Reggie Ray in the head, who was out of concussions, so he should have died at that point. Which is funny because it's the same actor who was in Varsity Blues, playing essentially the same exact character.
Yeah.
I could have sworn you're going to say your favorite scene, because when you said Varsity Blues, I was going to say it's when Chris Evans putting the whipped cream on, the whipped cream bikini. I could have sworn that was what you were going to say.
It's a banana split. Turns around, there's a banana hanging out of his ass.
I just want to say one thing about it. Really, is you said that it's probably it's your favorite spoof movie of all time, or you consider it the best. Some good contenders out there. Scary Movie 1, in that same era, is really good. Airplane, obviously. Hot Shots, Major League. There's a bunch of spoof movies out there that are really good. But that being said,
number one,
Top Secret. If we were to do a top 5 spoof movies, this would absolutely be on it. One of the funniest things isn't even in the theatrical release. It's during the musical, and when you watch it on cable, the line, the cook turns around and he's like making breakfast, right? So he turns around and he says, "I just jerked off in your French toast." So that's the real line. But on the cable edit, he turns around and he says, "Did somebody order the French toast?" Like it totally neuters the punchline, and it's almost funnier. If you know what the actual punchline is, it's very much in the same vein of Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon. It's hilarious.
I remember the first time, because we watched that together, I think on TV for the first time, and it was like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and like all of a sudden he says that, and we just both like we couldn't stop laughing for like 10 minutes because of how ridiculously stupid it was. And like that's been a favorite of mine for years ever since then. Just I love watching on TV because of stuff like that.
Exactly, it's hilarious. All right, let's move on to my number 5. I actually have a movie that I don't really know if it holds up too much today, but I remember when it first came out, I probably watched it 3 or 4 times within the, I think I saw it twice in theaters, and then once it was released on video, I watched it like 4 times. But I have Borat. Borat at number 5. This movie was the first time I wasn't a fan of Ali G. I had no idea what that was, so this was the first time I saw what's his name? Drawing a blank on the actor. So I had no idea what to expect with his particular comedy.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. There you go. Thank you. No idea what to expect from his brand, and the movie is so well done in making it look like it's a documentary and I just love that kind of style, as we talked about on the last episode where we were talking about Popstar, that fake documentary vibe.
Yeah.
I just really dig that. The Office is like that, Parks and Rec is like that. It's just a formula that works for me. But not only that, is this movie freaking quotable. There's so many things that came from this culturally that people just repeated forever and ever and ever. So much so that the reason I don't think it really holds up nowadays is because of that. It was just driven into the ground.
It's oversaturated.
My name Borat. Never gonna get this.
Beating a dead horse.
Exactly. That ended up happening, but I think you can only really do that if it's something that is so clever and smart and funny in the first place. But yeah, there's so many scenes that are just crazy in this movie, and I don't recommend watching it with like your parents or grandma or anything. It's very vulgar. But yeah, love this movie. So I may have had it higher if it wasn't so much of like a hit. Like if it was a cult classic, I probably would have had it higher because it wouldn't been, it would have gotten less annoying. But so that's why I have it at 5.
Yeah, that's a movie. I think I've only seen it twice, and I probably haven't seen it in probably at least 10 years or close to 10 years. I enjoyed it when I saw it, but I don't think I could put it, like, it probably wouldn't even be top 10 for me. Like, there are just so many great movies in that decade. It's just, and like I said, it wasn't like a bad movie by any stretch. It's just there's so many great contenders. It's hard to put it up there for me.
Yeah, this is before Sacha Baron Cohen really kind of grew on me. I've kind of found it. I think it was pretty hilarious. It has a lot of quotable things, obviously, and a lot of outlandish stuff that he does. But I think it was just kind of annoying. But I still understand how it's on your list. I mean, it was something no one had ever really done before. So,
to be fair,
like I said,
I said don't watch it with your grandpa. So that makes sense that you wouldn't enjoy it.
Oh, you're hilarious.
I have to sneak one in every episode, and that was the perfect time. So
I like Ollie G better. Ollie G, I think, was funnier. And then a lot of his later stuff that Sacha Baron Cohen does is like, Talladega Nights. I think he was hilarious in that.
That's his best, in my opinion.
Well, Borat, I would say, is his best. Bruno was not good, in my opinion.
Bruno was
The Dictator was horrible. So this was like peak. And, he's been trying to emulate the same thing ever since. Like, Bruno was essentially the same concept. And then his new show on HBO was essentially the same concept. This is America, or whatever it was called. So he's been trying to capture that same kind of thing because it was such a cultural hit. That, Bobby, I recommend watching it again as an adult. Because when that came out, you were like a freshman. Something like that. So
I don't think I saw it until a few years after it came out. So I didn't even see it right away either. I think maybe it was the fact that I didn't see it and I heard all these people quoting it for years, and then
maybe
it might have ruined some of the punch from just seeing him actually do it.
Could be, but I recommend watching it again, and you can probably make a drinking game out of it, which would make it even funner.
What's funny too is that even though it's overplayed, we still quote it today. Or at least I think I do, even though I didn't like the movie. There's a lot of hilarious scenes.
You're never gonna get this.
You're never gonna get this.
We say it all the time.
Yeah.
And like, I bet you there's people who hear that shit and don't even know really what it's from, but they know the saying, which is significant in my opinion. All right, let's move on to our number 4s. Let's start with you, Bobby. What do you got?
All right, I've got 5 syllables for you. Der ich Zoolander. Like, this movie, the first time I saw it, it became instantly one of my very favorite movies of any genre. Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson together, like, their chemistry in this movie is off the charts. The two of them going back and forth on each other, or just off each other with their jokes, is just incredible. Like, they've tried to recapture some of that magic in other movies since then together, but they'll never beat this movie for what they did. Then I've argued it before. I think this is Will Ferrell's best movie. So I think, like, this is his best movie, which I know you guys have argued with me on that. But it's just, I think everybody does an A+ job in this movie. You have, like, the dumbest possible character in Zoolander. He's a male model, and he's friends with idiot male models. He's absolutely right. And you just have, you have him, like, going through his journey, figuring himself out, trying to get out of modeling. And he wants to be a miner with his brothers and his dad. And, like, he's just so out of place there. Like, the montage of him working, it's set to Working for the Weekend, the song. And it's just like he's doing all the dumbest shit possible. Like, he's got a pickaxe and he accidentally throws it and hits somebody in the head. And then like he comes out of it and he goes, I think I got the black lung, Pop. He's like, it's been one day. It's just such a funny movie. And then you like my favorite scene is actually with I think it was J.P. Pruitt. He's the hand model. He's telling David Duchovny, and he's telling him about like the conspiracy going on. And then right after he wraps up telling him everything, Derek's like, but why male models? He's like,
exactly why.
Are you freaking serious? I just told you, idiot.
I love how he has his hand in like a glass case.
Yeah, exactly.
Like an oxygen-rich environment. And then Derek steps on it. You're like, oh.
You a freaking idiot.
I think when you're talking about when he comes out of the cave, they're in the bar. I think it's just hilarious that it's his brothers. It's it's Vince Vaughn is one of his brothers.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn. Yeah, I don't know the other guys.
And John Voight is his dad, and they all have the same exact
hair.
hair. I don't remember the other guy, but it was just hilarious. And then John Voight just was hilarious as that. He's like, "You think I like seeing my son on TV with his wiener hanging out?" It is hilarious.
The funny thing about that scene too is that like one of Derek's ads comes on TV. Yeah. He's like a mermaid, and it's like super effeminate, and they're like doing the manliest job ever. So they're just like so ashamed.
And they're all in their bar, their local bar, so everyone is seeing it.
Super embarrassing.
Merman.
One of the most notable things about the movie to me is like Owen Wilson's chemistry with Ben Stiller. It's so freaking good. Hansel is great, and the walk-off scene is probably a highlight of the film in my opinion.
David Bowie is the judge.
Dude, all the cameos there.
Disqualified. Yeah, Billy
like
Zane.
Taye Diggs, Billy Zane.
Shut it, Zane.
Yeah. It's a walk-off.
Billy Zane.
It's a walk-off. Yeah, it's a classic. I will say though, I do have a better Ben Stiller movie on my list coming up. So I wonder if you guys know what I'm talking about.
I think
we'll get there. All right, Jay, what about you? What's your number 4?
Number 4 is Wedding Crashers. I
Good choice.
love, you got Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. I mean, they're just great together. I don't know if they were anything before this, but I mean, this movie, their chemistry just clicks, and they just play off each other, and it's just amazing. It was almost like it wasn't written, like they just Vince Vaughn, he's just a fast talking, and Owen Wilson is kind of like the opposite. He's like slow and he's like methodic.
Whoa.
But he's got this cadence where he's just delivering lines where it's almost like it seems ad-libbed, but it seems written at the same time because he doesn't like trip over his words at all or anything like that.
No, he doesn't.
Like Vince Vaughn is just like rattling off thoughts and
and it's like everything he says is like almost ad-libbed. You think it's like
same with Owen Wilson. But the thing about Owen Wilson is it seems like he wrote it down himself. Like he made it up himself, wrote it down, memorized it. But I don't think that's what's happening. I think he's literally ad-libbing all that stuff. Like when he's talking about being, cowboys from Texas, you're trying to throw a Hail Mary in the first quarter, man. I want to be a cowboy from Texas or a maple farmer or whatever the line is. So,
from Vermont.
From Vermont. It's so good.
Hilarious too. And Bradley Cooper, he plays this tough guy, and he's like, Bradley Cooper, he's not a huge dude, and you kind of just douchey jock that just hurts him like every chance he can get. And he's hurting a guy like Vince Vaughn.
I believe so.
I know, right? Vince Vaughn
is 6-something, and Bradley Cooper's taking out Vince Vaughn. It's kind of like, oh, okay, but it's still hilarious at the same time. And then Christopher Walken as the senator, and then just every actor in here just did a great job.
It's so good.
Well, one of my favorite scenes from one of my favorite scenes involves Christopher Walken. It's like when his son ties him up. Or actually, no. I think
and he grabs the ropes.
I love Fisher. Exactly. Like he's just like, oh, okay. He just doesn't even say anything about it. But that's such a funny movie. Christopher Walken. I just love his delivery of like every line he does in that movie. He's like not even like the 5th funniest character in the movie, but I just love him in that movie.
No, yeah, it's the cast is just really good, and Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn really do carry it, I think. Well, obviously they're the main characters, but like for whatever reason they just work so well off of each other. And one of the funniest things about it, and I actually watched this the other day. Owen Wilson's character he's actually the main character, and I think so. And Vince Vaughn is very much supporting, but it's so funny to me that they both go with the same goal, and Vince Vaughn is the one who actually convinces Owen Wilson to like do it, or he's like more excited about doing the Wedding Crashers thing again. And then the whole time, Vince Vaughn's character is just getting fucked over. The whole
he's like,
time.
let's go. I want to get out of here. Let's leave.
Yeah,
I'm in the trench taking grenades for you.
Exactly. He's like, I'm up on the front lines. He's basically taking all the bullets, and Owen Wilson's character is like going through all the all the tricks and moves to try and get with Rachel McAdams, and it's just like none of it's working out, but everything that fails screws over Vince Vaughn's character. It's just really, really funny. Classic movie. This was gonna be my number 5, but I for whatever reason I just made the decision to put Borat on here. But I love.
I can't believe it's not higher on your list. Like I would have figured it would have been
on my list at all.
Number 2.
I do have a better Bradley Cooper movie on my list, though. Let's see if anybody can guess what that might be. Put it in the comments.
I know it. Thomas.
All right, yeah, Thomas, if you're out there, put in the comments on what Bradley Cooper movie I'm referring to, and it's not American Sniper. That movie's
Hi, Thomas.
Okay, so my number 4 is 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh yeah.
This movie kind of was. I think this kind of kicked off the style of the 2000s in terms of what comedies became, and I can't really put my finger on what that actually means. It's just that when you watch any of these movies, they kind of have that same feel, and they feel really like smart, like they're clever, and they're not too they're not too Family Guy, they're not too brash in how they deliver punchlines. It's very much like something that you have to really pay attention to pick up a lot of the jokes. This movie launched Steve Carell's career as a movie actor. Before this, he was on The Daily Show. He has since evolved into being incredibly well-rounded, and I'm actually a very big fan of his. But this movie showed us how funny he can actually be in a movie situation. Also, a really great cast. You got Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, like I said, Steve Carell. You have like a really endearing love story where it's a guy who's just never really ran into the right person and was never able to really fall in love, and sort of got in his own head about it, never wanted to put himself out there again. And it's about him breaking out of that shell and really really putting himself out there for rejection. So it's like, it's crude but also almost heartwarming. So I highly recommend this movie, and it was really tough putting it this low, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you say it was like one of the things that set the tone for this decade. I mean, it's Judd Apatow, so I mean, obviously, I feel like this decade was Judd Apatow's decade.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All his big works and the funny things actually came out, and he just dominates this whole, that whole 10 years.
I actually made a conscious effort to not put a lot of Judd Apatow movies on my list. There's a bunch in my honorable mentions that I'll get to, but yeah, for that exact reason, he was just dominant, prolific.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you brought up like the tone of the movie shifted once this movie came out. Like, a lot of the movies like from the early 2000s are still like really stupid, have a lot of dumb laughs in them. These have dumb moments, but it's a little bit less dumb. I don't really know how to say that in a better way, but it definitely feels like a little bit of more of a smart humor type situation for a lot of these jokes.
I think that these movies, especially at our age group, because we're sort of growing up, becoming more adults, more mature when these movies are coming out. So I feel like they sort of grow up with you, where like, because there's a lot of stupid humor. So like there's dumb stuff and there's crude stuff, and like they're calling each other gay and all that crap that we used to always do back then before it became insensitive. Well, it was back then, but before we realized it. But then it like deals with more adult themes and stuff like that, like dating someone who already has a kid and all this stuff. Like it was interesting. So I think it was like the perfect time in our maturing stage, and they sort of replicated that, or they were relatable in that way. So yeah, it's one of those movies that I think was an instant classic. I saw it multiple times in theaters, laughed all the time. So all I have to say is, how many pots have you smoking? Classic movie. I don't know, how many times have you gone to the bathroom in your life?
Hope you have a big trunk. I'll put my bike in it. I think also too is what made this movie so relatable is that also it's like, like you said, they're calling each other names. They were obviously real friends, and that's how we talk to each other in real life.
Exactly.
Poking and jabbing and making fun of each other, even though at the very bottom of it, we're all like best friends. We'd do anything for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like, it was almost like real life. It's like a real life situation. It's real life problems, and it's just real life humor. I mean, even though people probably don't want to admit that they joke about that kind of stuff. I mean, but when they're alone, just them, obviously they are going to.
Well, and not only that, just to kind of branch out on the more relatable parts is like, Steve Carell's character is a freaking nerd, right? And so being a part of NRDWave podcast, we can relate to that. I don't have quite as many toys as he does, but I've got some toys that are unopened. I've got some crap that, for display pieces, all the stuff, memorabilia. So I totally get it. But one thing's for sure, when I bring girls home, when I bring girl home, they never care. I don't care about like hiding that shit. So that's the one difference.
Would you sell your collection for a woman?
Hell no. It's my stuff.
So
all right. So yeah, I guess that wraps up our number 4s. Jay, why don't you take away number 3? Get into the nitty gritty halfway point.
Number 3 is where we start the big hitters right here, guys. Anchorman, number 3 for me. I know Bobby's going to disagree. This movie's a little played out for him. But
it doesn't hold up.
It doesn't hold up.
That's his exact
I do have
quote.
to admit, the first time I saw this movie, I thought it was the dumbest thing, and I didn't like it. I had to watch it 2 or 3 more times. Yeah, 2 or 3 times, and it grew on me like the gnarliest wart. I love this movie.
They should put that on the DVD box.
Yeah, it grows on you like a gnarly wart.
Chase over heels, nerd.
That's high praise.
Yeah,
right there.
But this movie is just like one of the most quotable movies ever, and I mean, it's just completely not politically correct too. At the same time, it's almost funny. Like we talk about all these movies in the last, even in the last 20 years, like political correctness is completely taken over and kind of ruining humor, or like destroying it. But this movie, didn't care about it. The whole cast, the whole ensemble. I mean, you have. Even the Vince Vaughn was in this one again. Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson. Was Owen Wilson in this one?
Luke Wilson was.
No, Luke Wilson was in this. There was a Wilson in it, and just Christina Applegate, and then
she's phenomenal. I'd seen her on Married with Children, but I didn't realize that she was actually this funny.
Yeah.
Like in anything else.
Really good.
Yep. Yeah. And then you got his whole crew. Everything's hilarious, and it's like they take the stupidity and just push it to the very edge, almost to like where you're like, all right, that's really dumb, but it's still super hilarious.
Yeah, this movie, it's not in my top 5, spoiler alert, but it is in my honorable mention, so I just want to comment on that. It's incredibly hilarious. I still think it holds up, but one of the things about this movie is when we talked about how like Apatow sort of took over the rest of this decade. So this movie came out in 2003, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
40-Year-Old Virgin was 2004. So this was almost like the last of a style of comedy that doesn't really exist anymore. Like Zoolander, where it's like this weird concept. It's super like not believable, and then it turned into more real situations with Apatow style. So it's like a real life thing that could really happen.
Like Knocked Up.
Yeah, exactly. Those style of movies. So this was like for me the last of a dying breed that actually hit. It was actually hilarious, extremely quotable, and everybody's good in it. Paul Rudd's freaking good in it. Again, Steve Carell. Oh, this was Steve Carell's first big role. He's hilarious in this freaking movie.
He's such
an idiot. It's just not a starring role where like he got in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Exactly.
He definitely was great.
But he was in it a lot.
Role of Brick.
And one of the funniest things is the opening scene where they're all introducing each other or themselves, and Brick's like, I'm Brick Tamlin, I'm the weatherman, and then he's like, years later, I will be diagnosed as retarded or something like that because he has like a 90 IQ.
Yeah. It was like a 60, I think.
Yeah, it's so funny though because just like years later, like he's giving his epilogue at the beginning of the movie.
It's like he's like, and he becomes like, he becomes
like a senator or something like that.
He becomes an advisor to President George W. Bush.
and at the moment, I think he's putting butter or like
he's putting mayonnaise
in a toaster.
Yeah,
classic. Love this movie.
That's a great opening to the movie for sure. Like I said, like it's really funny. It just, I think like it started out at such a high level for me that each watch, it just it takes a little bit off. Like some movies will just do that for me. This one, it just like some of the best scenes aren't as shiny as they used to be. I think the only scene that I still find as hilarious as when I first saw it is the Anchorman fighting scene.
Yeah.
Like it's just pure insanity, and they have got all. Como están, beaches? You got Ben Stiller coming in. You got Luke Wilson coming in. He gets his arm chopped off at one point. He's like, "Oh, come on!"
And it spawned an incredible meme.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Oh yeah.
So
it's definitely a cultural milestone. I think just through like memes and just memories of all that stuff. It's definitely a great movie. I would put it in my top 10. It's just I don't have it in my top 5.
I still think it's very hilarious. But yeah, like I said, I don't have it in my top 5. I labored on that, but it is an honorable mention. So at least it got there. It's a runner-up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Jason, don't feel so bad. You didn't write the movie after all.
You ain't first, you're last.
That's a different movie. Is that on your
I
list? Oh,
No.
spoilers. All right, Bobby, what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3 is I went with another Paul Rudd movie here. I went with I Love You, Man. Paul Rudd, Jason Segel. Then you've also got another Jamie Presley movie. You know, there's a trend here.
Yeah.
This is the end of the trend.
This is top 5 Jamie Presley movies.
I actually
there's
could
probably
have
only there's like 3.
I
and
could
then
have
you
a third. I just don't.
But she's only been in like 3 movies, so you have to do some episodes of My Name Is Earl.
Exactly. This movie. Also, in another as a supporting character, you also have Andy Samberg, who I think whenever he's in the movie, he does a phenomenal job. He's just so likable and funny.
Yeah, he's great.
But then, like, I think this movie's great because you have Paul Rudd. Like, he doesn't really have a lot of friends, and then like he meets Jason Segel's character, and they just click, and you just see it's probably one of the best bromance movies there is. I don't know how many there are in that genre.
Pretty much the only bromance movie, I think.
I mean, I would call like buddy cop movies. You could call those bromance.
Those are buddy cop, I think. Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure the difference really, but like the point is like Paul Rudd is the most likable person on the planet. Like how could you not like him? And then Jason Segel, like this is like around his peak. He was just so good in this movie with Paul Rudd. Yeah. It's just two guys becoming best friends and then going through some hardships, and I don't know, I could just really just feel the friendship between these two guys and like the platonic love, and like I really like just with my friendships with you guys, like I felt like I was watching some of the stupid shit that we do on the big screen, you know. I really connected to it. It's just every time I watch it, I just have like this warm feeling when I watch it. It's so stupid sounding, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's very grounded, and this is a movie that has an Apatow style, but isn't actually done by him. So it would be, you know,
Who's the
just because
director?
of the cast. It's the cast. You know, they're all Apatow alumni.
Yeah, but it's also very much, it has the same like air of that style.
Yeah.
The director was John Hamburg, and it wasn't even done by Apatow's production company. But it feels like that kind of movie. And I like I was saying, basically the trend for this decade is that type of style where it's real. You can imagine being in that situation of not having a ton of male friends because you've always dove into your relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think what's great about this one. What's great about this one too is that they're just starting a relationship, but they go through all the growing pains of relationships so fast, because it's happened so quickly, and then they just dive right in. And so it's like all this stuff is happening super quick, but at the end, they're still best friends, and they survive. It survives at the end, and they just got the love for each other. It's just great. It's hilarious, and all the things that they say. He gets his tongue tied saying stupid as shit.
Later on the Menjay.
Yeah. Later, Jobin.
Yeah, it's like doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, like seeing their paths, in their lives, like where they go. Like Paul Rudd's character never had friends because he never really invested time in it. But Jason Segel's character was always charismatic and had a big group of friends, but they're moving on with their lives and starting their families, and he's kind of getting left behind. So there's almost like that bond that starts from being in a vulnerable position, and it's really cool. And Jason Segel's character is really cool. Like he seems cool, and he's like independent, and self-sufficient, and all that. And he just kind of takes Paul Rudd's character under his wing, and it's like really. It's really cool, and I saw this movie a shitload of times in the theaters too. Like all these movies were, I paid so much money watching all these movies because they're just
never
so good.
Again.
And now this movie's always on USA or TBS or whatever, and like still funny. I'll watch them on there all the time. Really good. Anybody else have anything to say about that one?
It's great.
It's just a great movie. I love watching that movie. It's hilarious.
It's a romantic comedy between two straight dudes. So it's interesting. So my movie, my number 3, I think was pretty innovative. I can't think of another movie that came out before this that really had this same kind of style. I could be wrong, let me know. But definitely after this movie came out, there was one that was almost exactly the same. And my number 3 is The Hangover.
Is it the sequel, by the way?
Yes. The Hangover is so good they made it twice. And the second one wasn't as good, unfortunately, because it was literally the exact movie, and all the jokes didn't really hit.
It was in Thailand though.
That's true. That's true. So anybody who hasn't seen this, which I don't know what you're waiting for, it's hilarious. It's about a group of guys who go to Vegas on a bachelor party, and one of them goes missing, and none of them can remember the night before because they're all hungover. And basically, it's them retracing their steps, trying to find out where their friend is, and it's really hilarious because it's almost like a mystery movie or like a detective movie with a bunch of idiots who are too drunk to remember the night before. And there's so many iconic moments in this too, like just the fact that Mike Tyson's in it. Punches Ed Helms. You got a tiger in the hotel room, the trashed hotel room. So many great lines from Zach Galifianakis. He's so funny in this movie that every other part he ever played was basically this character. Feel bad for him because he got typecasted so hard.
I know he was so good in that role that nobody would let him play anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, then you have Bradley Cooper. This was the movie I was referring to when we talked about Wedding Crashers. Obviously a much bigger role, and he is basically like the leader of this group. You have Zach Galifianakis' character is this lovable idiot, and then Ed Helms is like this panicky dude who like can't just relax. So that whole mix of characters just works so well together because you got the cool-headed guy who's like making sure everyone stays on point. But when he loses it and he's like starting to freak out, that makes it really funny. Ken Jeong is great in it. Bunch of really cool like side characters and stuff in this movie. Highly recommended.
I think it's great because you were talking about like how it was like influential in like future movies a little bit. I think a lot of TV shows at one point or another have mimicked that style of an episode where they like I know Psych was had a really good episode about that towards the end of its run. It's just it's a really interesting format to use, and like as many times as I've seen it, I have not tired of it yet.
It's like The Matrix. The Matrix had its iconic imagery, and everyone tried to ape it, and that's what lots of people did with this movie.
Like you said, this movie is so innovative. Like when you first time you saw it, you've never seen anything like it, and it just I don't know. It's so outlandish. It just takes everything to the next level.
I tried to think of other movies that came before this. I didn't think very hard, but I did try. I thought for like a solid 30 seconds, I was like, did anybody else do this before this? And it was really cool. I liked it. It had a great premise, and they freaking nailed it. And it was an instant classic as well. Just like 40-Year-Old Virgin was. It was so good, and it was so successful. I'm not sure that there's any real movies that can top it like that.
I don't know.
Besides the other two on my list.
Well, I mean, I think one movie that, as in a later decade, that did it pretty well, same type of thing was, but you had time travel in it too, was Hot Tub Time Machine. It was pretty successful in using that kind of formula.
True. That was a little bit different in the sense that they had to figure out why, they were all in the position they were in present day, rather than the other way around where they had to find a lost soul and they couldn't remember. But
you still have the blackout. You have the blackout. You have the different things happening while you're blacked out.
Exactly.
And then you have trying to fix the blackout.
Yeah. And I think you brought that movie up on the last episode, and I regretted not having that on my top 5 because that's a really good movie, despite John Cusack.
Hey, he was actually pretty good in that movie, wasn't he?
Moving on. What's
I didn't want to admit it.
What's your number 2, Jay?
My number 2 is Step Brothers. We had to get another Will Ferrell movie in there, but also
had to.
John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly just, I don't know, something about his comedy style. It's just hilarious. I love him in all his comedies. Walk Hard, Talladega Nights, as mentioned before. They make a good team, except for in Holmes and Watson. That was God. But it's another super quotable movie. You have these super immature adult men, 40-year-old men that are acting like they're in their late teens, early teens even, and they still live with their mom and dad, and they're still treated. They don't have jobs. They just sit around the house all day, do whatever they want, just playing video games, having fun, playing drums, and and they just see each other as at first they see each other as enemies, almost as adversaries. Trying to compete for the approval of their parents, and then in the end, in the middle, I guess obviously they end up deciding they're pretty much the same and become best friends, and it's just hilarious, just the path to becoming best friends, and then everything they do as best friends, and then they're kind of forced to grow up, and they're faking being grown up, because deep down they're still those same guys.
They're basically like they're going on 50 and they're millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. I've gone on record as saying that I don't love this movie. It for some reason just didn't click with me. I don't know why. I think it's partly seeing an adult act like a child for 2 hours.
I think it's what you were talking about. It's not realistic.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Will Ferrell's brand.
Well, yeah, it was Will Ferrell, and
it's Will Ferrell to a T.
Bring that formula back a little later on in the decade.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even though that style had died, I think this is its final iteration of what they can do with that.
Yeah. Because even Other Guys, which came after, was more realistic.
Oh. Yeah. Well, so like for this movie, like I think there's a lot of really good scenes, but I think my favorite scene, I don't remember exactly what started the scene because I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but it leads to Will Ferrell's character trying to bury John C. Reilly's character. He's like, "What are you doing?"
It's like Casino. It's like Casino. Horrifying scene.
No one's gonna miss you.
That scene is funny.
You're waking the neighbors.
That's a good scene. That did legitimately make me laugh.
Yeah.
That was funny.
There's always the one most quotable scene, and I don't know. I think just now the most quotable lately, because every time someone says there's something wrong, you go, you know what's good for that? If you lick my butthole.
Yeah.
I don't know. Between our group of friends, I think we do that a lot, or it's just me. I don't know.
I don't think I've said that, but I have seen you say it.
It's been said to me a lot, and in many different contexts.
Any time, any ways.
I think I just recently said you're like, I have a sore throat. I'm like, you know what's good for that?
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
That's good.
All right, Bobby, what's your number 2?
All right, so this one, I think this is more of a personal favorite than a universal favorite, But this movie, like, I think I watched it probably a few years after it came out, but I've watched it so many times since because it's so damn good. It's Super Troopers. It's a cult movie. It's by the Broken Lizards crew. They've got a handful of really good, funny movies, but they're not universally known. I think recently, the last few years, they finally got some recognition, which is why they got Super Troopers 2 out there. But for a long time, a lot of people hadn't seen this movie, and it's basically just a bunch of idiots that became friends and are cops and work in the same station. It's like if all of us worked in a police station, it's kind of the same hijinks and shenanigans that we would all get into.
We'd all be dead because Bobby would have killed us with a misfire from his pistol. Damn it, Bobby.
Who's Farva?
I'm probably gonna be saddled with Farva, but I don't want to.
But you're not like an asshole.
No, you're not Farva. You're Rabbit. No, you're not Rabbit. You're you're Mac. No, not Mac.
You're anyone.
Who's the redheaded guy?
I like him.
The one that didn't have a mustache.
The movie's just so funny. It's just basically it's the story of them, like they're underfunded and like they're close to being shut down, and it's the story of them trying to catch a big drug dealer and try and stay open, and like they're doing a bunch of stupid shit in the meantime. There's a scene where they go into I don't remember, Paunchburger I think it was, and they go to just get some food, and they're just sitting there like Dimpusburger. And they're just sitting there like shooting the shit, talking about what they would do if they won $1 million. And then one of the people who works there fucked with Farva's drink, and then he just goes wild on him because like it spills on him, and he just goes wild. And then all of a sudden it flashes to like footage of like him trying to beat down the kid that works in the store.
The CCTV footage. Yeah.
It's just so funny. The captain's just sitting there, just like you can see him just watching silently, but looking over at Farva every few seconds. It's just so fucking good.
All right, so I know I'm gonna get hate for this one too. I do not like this movie at all.
In a sense,
I don't think it's funny at all. I thought it was boring. I thought it was incredibly dated. And I don't know. I just don't like the Broken Lizard style because I don't really like the other Beer Fest
and Club Dread.
Club Dread's horrible.
They're fun to watch though.
No, they're stupid. But in other properties that they've been on, like they have the show on one of the
True TV.
True TV, yeah, that's actually kind of funny.
Jimmy Tatro, I saw him in one of the episodes. I don't know if he's like a regular, but
yeah,
like, that's pretty exciting.
I've only seen a few episodes. Yeah, but I imagine Jay, this isn't on your list at all.
No, it was an honorable mention, but it's not on my list.
All right. Okay, So sorry, Bobby. Sorry to burst your bubble, but your taste sucks. Let's talk about a better movie. Just kidding, Bobby. Giving you a hard time. But back when you were talking about Zoolander, I mentioned that I have a better Ben Stiller movie. Tropic Thunder is my number 2. Tropic Thunder was, this movie, and I'm using this word a lot. Clever. This movie was, it was so creative in its style, like having a Stallone type action star who's washed up, who's not as successful as he used to be, trying to kind of reinvent himself, teaming up with other famous actors, getting big names like Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who's like kind of the Daniel Day-Lewis of this universe, where he's just a great actor, doesn't really do blockbusters, and he's like joining on board. And then you got a rapper, then you got like the young teen guy, and Jay Baruchel's character, and Jack Black, the comedian, pretty much the white Eddie Murphy, the white universe. Eddie Murphy. So it was really, really funny, like seeing real life tropes, or like real life archetypes of actors being put into this role to all try and work together on this movie. And then the kicker of the story is the director, played by Steve Coogan, trying to make it more real because nothing's working in their filming, and sending them out. They're filming on location, and they go out into the woods or like into the jungle to try and film this. And there's like it's a notorious area for drug trafficking and like these cartels and stuff, and they just get all mixed up into that. But probably the most notable aspect of this movie is Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as an Australian guy. Or no, is he? No, he's Australian.
Yeah,
he's an Australian guy playing a black guy from the South. Blackface and everything. I do not know how he got away with this, but it works so good.
People were pissed. But he got nominated for an Oscar, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think people were pissed. There's a lot of like black actors and stuff there on record saying like, yeah, that shit was hilarious, and it was, and like, and it was so funny because his whole character is that he's method, so he like lives the character, and it's really, really funny. And then there's another black character who's in it, he's a rapper who's trying to become an actor. Al Pacino, yeah, is his rap name, and he's just like. He's how I expected everyone to react to this freaking movie, like, who would be offended. And he's just, like, challenging him on everything he's saying. Yeah. He's like, that's not how we talk, man. It's, like, really
What do you
really
mean,
good.
You people?
What do you mean?
What do you mean, you people? Yeah, so it's so good. And there's a lot of iconic lines in this one, too. Too many to really name.
I'm a Mr. Illusion.
What really throws the movie over the top is how well everyone played their characters. That's what really takes this movie over the top.
Yeah, there's not a bad performance in this movie.
No.
Not a bad performance. It's so good. And then like Jay Baruchel's character is pretty much like a regular
Jay Baruchel. It's just himself.
He's he's like us.
It's funny.
He's supposed to be like us. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we looking at? But he's like smart and like resourceful, and he's part of the reason why they even survive. Yeah. It's really, really good. And then another great thing I forgot to mention is Tom Cruise.
Oh, that was my mention.
Yeah, as what's his name?
Len Grossman.
Len Grossman.
Yeah.
And he's just like stereotypical asshole producer, like untouchable dude. Great. It's awesome, and he was like not really like nobody knew he was going to be in this freaking movie.
Nobody knew. That was great. He was just like the surprise cameo of that was just great.
When we saw him in the theater, I'm like, what the is that? Tom
no one knew around. Like we're trying to figure it out. I think in the theater was like, who is that's Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. So good. So good.
And then you got Matthew McConaughey playing his agent.
Who ends up having a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Yep. I got you the TiVo.
That's funny that's the hill he's gonna die on.
Yeah.
Is like the freaking TiVo.
Yeah.
Who cares at that point? He already knows that they're in trouble, and he's like, that's still his main focus. It's really funny.
He felt bad for selling him out for the G6.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is another one of those movies like we talked about, like Robert Downey Jr. playing not being PC, but there's so much other not PC stuff in here. Like Ben Stiller. What is it?
Simple.
Tug Speedman.
Oh,
he plays his character.
No.
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack. Yeah, Simple Jack. And that would not fly. It would not fly now.
Stop hitting me. Say it
again. Make me happy.
I got the movies in my head.
And then like an interesting commentary on Hollywood in general with with Robert Downey Jr. saying, like, telling him, like, you never go full retard, man. Like, that
Yeah,
they,
like a Sean Penn.
exactly. It's like they have these conversations of like, well, I want to play this role that's gonna like show my range, but I don't want to like lose everybody, and it's just really funny, especially since like Robert Downey Jr.'s character is like so offensive.
Yeah.
Like he's going over the line, but it just really works. It was a bold fucking movie. This I would say, and Ben Stiller's had a lot of good movies, but this I would say is his best movie, and a lot of that is because the cast is so damn good too. So, yeah, my number 2. So before we move on to number 1, did you do your number 1?
I didn't do my number 1, but can I do my number 1?
No, not yet. I just want to say I'm amazed that none of us have had a duplicate yet.
I think we're about to have one for sure. But
I think so too. I know what your number 1 is, Bobby, just based on it. And I
know my number 1.
I think I know.
It's not our movie.
Your movie.
All right, we can start with Jay, but just isn't that weird?
It's so weird.
Isn't that weird?
Like,
We don't have a duplicate?
number 1. Number 1, Tropic Thunder.
Oh, so close. So close. You have great taste, though, I will say.
Thank you.
I'm so happy it wasn't fucking Club Dread or something stupid like
Club Dread.
Something stupid like Super Troopers or something.
I know when movies are bad. I just still like watching.
I'm gonna get so much hate from Thomas.
Well, we already talked about this movie. This movie, we could talk about it and beat it to the ground. Another thing to mention is that this was at the height of Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback.
Oh yeah,
I think it was done right after Iron Man.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we're getting the best of Robert's performances, and to continue on, he's still going to be the greatest actor, one of the greatest actors of our generation.
Except I don't know what he's done besides that movie and being Tony Stark. Like he tried the movie The Judge, I think, with
that was pretty heartwarming. It was a heartfelt and touching movie.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Sherlock Holmes, have you?
Sherlock Holmes. I love those movies.
Those are good. That's true.
Those are good. He did another movie with Jamie Foxx where he kind of like
The Pianist.
Oh.
No, the
he's
cellist.
Cellist.
Yeah. I heard that was decent. But yeah, that's why he wanted to leave Marvel, to be honest. It's because of stuff like that where people, only remember him for that. But
unfortunately, I saw his latest one and it wasn't really that good.
Oh god.
That was Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
He was whispering the whole movie, just weird Irish accent. I think it was just bad direction.
He was trying to be Sherlock Holmes, just in a weirder.
It would have been better if he was actually Sherlock Holmes as Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
That actually would have been pretty cool to hear or to see. Like going back to Tropic Thunder though, I think one of my favorite like subplots is how Jack Black's character is addicted to heroin.
Yeah. And my jelly beans.
Oh, hey, I love jelly beans. Can I have some? No, they're my fucking jelly beans.
I love how he's trying to convince Jay Baruchel's character to give him his drugs.
He's so gross.
He's like, I'll gar your balls, man.
Ew.
Like, I'll lick it up and down. It's like super vulgar.
Your mother's a cantankerous whore.
I love when the bat steals his bag of heroin, and then he catches it. And he's like trying to suck the blood out of the bat to get the high still.
And then after he's like going through his withdrawals or whatever, and they're trying to get Tug back from the drug camp, and he's like pretending to be a prisoner. But then when he's like let go, when all hell breaks loose and they start shooting, he pulls out a gun from his ass. It's like from his underwear. Tighties. Yeah, there was nowhere for that gun to be, so it had to be in his butt. So that was really funny. And he's just like, yeah, and he's like all into it at that point.
And he finds the mountain of heroin.
Oh, and he's like, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, and then he gets like superpowers.
No, I don't think he does it. I think he just gives a rage, and he ends up throwing it in all the enemies' faces.
No, he.
Oh, it's because he farts.
Oh, that's right.
And he farts, and they start laughing
at him. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he gets all offended
because he doesn't want to be that guy.
Well, that's his shtick.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I don't want to be Zach Galifianakis. Yeah, great movie, great choice, Jay. Great choice.
Thank you.
All right, Bobby. I think I know what this one's gonna be. Drum roll. Go.
Superbad.
Yeah. Superbad's my number 1 too.
There was no way Kevin and I weren't gonna both have this movie.
Yeah, this movie is iconic on multiple levels. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Bobby. Tell us about it.
So this movie came out the summer that I was graduating. So it's like I feel like it came out at the perfect time for me. Like if I graduated a few years before that or a few years after that, then I think I wouldn't have such a connection to this movie. But I feel like that's how I would be. I'm Michael Cera. I'm super awkward. I couldn't talk to girls in high school. Like I would walk faster to get away from them if they were walking with me, and like take a random turn just to get away from them because I'm that awkward.
If you were Michael Cera, I was McLovin. 10:30. What?
Told her what time.
Just walk away. I told her what time it was. That'd be me. I remember. This is a big tangent, but I remember just like, all jokingly, just talking to my friends. Like, if the girl did the most like uninteresting thing, like take off her jacket, I'd be like, "Oh, that girl's so into me. She took off her jacket." You know, like stupid shit like that. Obviously joking because I knew nobody was into me. But yeah, same thing. It's like it's very much it's so relatable because we were sort of those guys where we were just sort of. Well, for me in particular, like kind of felt invisible or flew under the radar in high school, and this was like
that ended right after that, huh?
What?
Being invisible?
How so?
You're still
invisible. Dang, Bobby, way to pile on my complex. But yeah, like then, but same kind of thing. It was almost like they were having their last hurrah. They were feeling like they weren't, they didn't have a really good time in high school, and I didn't have a bad time in high school, but like it wasn't anything like the party scene or anything like that. So this was sort of like
I never went to parties ever in school.
So living vicariously through them was powerful. And then not only that, it's just so funny. There's so many good jokes, so many like things that they say in the movie that is like something that we may have said. Like, have you seen a vagina by itself? Not for me. It's just so good.
It's like just so many stupid things that like run through the mind of a 17 or an 18-year-old guy that like, and it's like like you said, it's the stuff that we said to each other. Yeah. But like if anybody was actually listening to us, they'd be like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Well, how many conversations did we have, Bobby, like where we would just be like, if anybody was listening right now, they would think we were fucking insane. Like we literally said that multiple times. So
just way too many. And just joke. Oh, sorry.
I do have to give this movie about the life of a teenage boy. Like I got that correct, and there's a lot of funny things. The only reason this movie doesn't stick for me is obviously my dislike of Michael Cera.
I don't understand it. I think he's still really good because that was like right after he did Arrested Development, and he was still he was a little bit more grown up, but I think he fit like the awkward nerdy. Like he was the avatar.
He was perfect for the role. He was perfect for the role. Just maybe he was too close to home.
Yeah, I think he's so good in the movie. I think he's the best part of the movie.
Well, he looks like Jimmy's brother, just like Jimmy's brother.
Yep, that's a really good scene. I love repeating that. And then later on, the payoff to that scene is when they're at the party, and they're at this party basically because Seth Rogen's character, Jonah Hill's character gets run over by this guy, and they're trying to blackmail him for money so that they could buy beer because they think McLovin's getting arrested. So like, shit, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get beer now? Because that was basically their job when for the party. And then so they go to this party and they're like, because the guy's like, I can get you alcohol, it's fine. And they go to the party and they get separated, and then Michael Cera ends up in this room with like a bunch of guys, and they're like gonna start doing drugs and stuff.
Yeah, they're doing coke.
And then one of them says, "Hey, aren't you Jimmy's brother?" And like, as building on that scene, and then like they make him sing because they heard that Jimmy's brother has a great voice, so he sings a song, and it's a really funny scene, and they're all digging it even though it's not good.
It's funny. He's like, "Hey, my cousin's out here all the way from Phoenix. Sing for my cousin."
Yeah, like totally like. It's like almost a threat because they're like, you're not going to sing for my cousin. And then so then later on, the third payoff to the joke is that there's a fight that breaks out, and there's this big old fat guy who like falls on Michael Cera's character, and they're like, hold him, Jimmy's brother, and they just start beating the crap out of the big fat guy, and it's so funny. It's like almost a throwaway line, like, you look just like Jimmy's brother, that ends up having multiple payoffs. It's really funny, and it's not like super in your face humor as usual. This, the Judd Apatow brand, you have to kind of like, I think you have to have a little bit better or a little bit more of a sense of humor to get these movies. So, yeah.
Explains why Jay doesn't. Got him.
I'm old and crotchety, and I don't think things are funny.
Jay's walking away. Oh,
you
no.
heard it. You heard it here first. Jay's old, crotchety, and doesn't think things are funny. Yeah. What else can we say about this movie?
I think it's I think it's at least the best comedy of the century. I mean, even this millennia, you know.
A little early to say that.
Hey, but it's still accurate.
It's just I think this movie, unlike Anchorman, I think the comedy holds up. You know, it's just I still remember exactly what it's like to be in high school and to want to get out and to want to do more things, and just like all these things still, it's what I would have done if I had anybody to go to a party to for like the last night of the year, something like that. I never even had that opportunity. So
like I said, this style of comedy was basically what defined this generation of movies. Because of the realism, because of the relatability. They just do that so well where you're just like, oh yeah, I can imagine being in this situation. You can't imagine being fucking Ron Burgundy. And so like that style just sort of died out. And I think that shows in like box office numbers for movies that are made by Will Ferrell nowadays. You know, like they just don't work because it's a style that's
just silly.
Pretty much dead. Yeah. I mean, and I can appreciate him to a point, but they're not movies that make me just super laugh out loud anymore, because
we matured and we've grown past that.
Exactly.
Did we even talk about Seth Rogen and Bill Hader, like as the cops in this movie?
Those were my favorite part of it. That was my favorite part of it.
Oh shit, it's the cops.
They were just incredible. Like when they were questioning a convenience store worker about a robbery, and they're just being absolutely insane about it, and they're just giving her crap for no reason, and it's completely hilarious.
She's like, I can't do this. I got a test.
Oh,
and they're like, oh, you think you got a test tomorrow? Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, they were really funny in it too. And McLovin is sort of like the unexpected star of the movie, or like, he got a lot of praise after that movie because that character was so funny. And obviously the name, nobody knows the real character's name, do you? It's just McLovin.
He's McLovin, yeah.
But there was always that guy in school too that was like the same kind of guy, the super nerdy guy, the awkward guy that fit in with everybody.
Kevin.
Sausage.
Yeah. Even the jocks loved him, and everyone just thought he was great.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that wraps up our top 5. I think we each have a few honorable mentions we want to talk about. Let's try and rattle them off kind of quick because we're going over time. But Bobby, why don't you start? What are some movies you wanted to mention?
I've got like 15 movies written down here, but like I've got like Dodgeball used to be my favorite movie.
Let's see how many we agree on. Jay, do you have a list?
Okay, I have a list.
So Dodgeball, we all three.
Okay, so I'll do 3 then. I've got Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which I thought one of you guys would have on here, and then if I were to pick a third one, I'd probably go. Let's say Talladega Nights, because that movie is still it's stupid but still very funny. I think it's better than Step Brothers. Again, Agreed. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Yeah, I think that's the last movie that was like really laugh out loud from Will Ferrell, in my opinion. But I didn't have that on my list, not because I don't like it, but it was an oversight. Did you have that one, Jay?
It was an oversight. I thought about it for a second, and then I forgot to write it down because I remembered something else, and I wrote that down. But yeah.
Jeez, Jay. All right, Nate,
I know. I got a lot of
3 from your list.
3 from my thing. All right, I have
3 from my thing.
Team America, World Police.
That's a good one.
I have Shaun of the Dead.
Okay, also good. I didn't. I was gonna mention that one on my honorable mentions, but we mentioned it in the other episode we did. So.
Right.
And then another show from the Second City crew, Best in Show. Same guys that brought us Spinal Tap. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Creek guys?
Yeah, and it's just hilarious. It's another mockumentary. I really highly suggest this for anyone that loves these kind of things.
I'll have to see that one. Hilarious. That one got away from me.
Yeah.
you guys mentioned Shaun of the Dead. I had Hot Fuzz on my list.
Hot Fuzz is awesome.
I decided to go with more of a pure comedy than what that like. I don't feel like it's as much of a comedy. It's definitely hilarious, but I don't know. It feels like a cop movie more than a comedy.
That's why sort of on the last episode we did, I didn't have 21 Jump Street on my list because of that, because it was like more of an action thing too. So I wanted more like pure just jokes. But yeah, we kind of mentioned everything on my list too. I think we had a good blend. The one thing that I think is an underrated movie that I don't think really anybody saw was Sex Drive.
I have it on my list here, on my backup list.
I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but we saw this movie together, right?
I think I saw it with Corey. I don't know if you were there or not.
Okay, I wonder who I saw this with, because I'm pretty sure I saw it at like the $3 theater after it was already out, and like, or after it had been out for a while, and was just like, why didn't I see this movie, and why hasn't anybody talked about it? Like,
It was so funny.
it's really
It was
funny.
so good.
Yeah,
Like,
Seth Green
great
is really
road trip.
funny in it.
He plays an Amish dude.
Yeah, it's a really sarcastic one. But yeah, other than that, I had Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I had Knocked Up on my list. I had Anchorman here, Wedding Crashers, I Love You Man, and Dodgeball. That was my honorable mention list. So I think we covered quite a bit, and I think that we demonstrated how much deeper this particular decade was from the last one in terms of just high quality comedies.
Honestly,
Amazing.
there's still so many that we could go through. Like I've got like Pineapple Express on here. I think we talked about Joe Dirt. Hot Rod, I actually thought would be on one of your guys' lists.
Yeah. When you mentioned Andy Samberg earlier, I was like, oh, Hot Rod.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, I was like, damn it. And then the death of funny movies for this decade. Sorry to say, was Funny People.
Yeah, that movie was depressing.
That was
how it even qualified or categorized as a comedy.
It starts
the
out
first half of it is really funny.
And then it just goes so
super
dark.
sad and dark, and you're like, why?
And it's too long. It's too long, kind of like this episode. So, with that being said, let's wrap it up. Once again, that was our top 5 favorite comedies from 2000 to 2009. Let us know if there's anything we missed. I'm sure there's tons, because this decade was so dense. And let us know if you hate us. So, anything else you guys want to say?
Please let us know about if you hate us or not. I would really like to know.
Yeah, and check out our Twitter and our Instagram. Obviously, you're probably listening to this on YouTube, but keep an eye out for the future, because we're going to be posting to Spotify and then hopefully someday iTunes. So we'll be everywhere, so our one listener can hear us on multiple platforms.
Hi, Thomas. We're hoping to double our audience pretty soon here, so please help us.
That'd be very, very easy. We just need one of you. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you think. Until next time.
Thanks for riding that wave.
Wow, you paid it.
Shred that nine.
So